Yes, welcome back everybody to the channel. Welcome to 2025. It's been a little while, but I hope you're all doing really well and we're ready for another year of builds, creativity, and hopefully some fun surprises along the way. Over the break, I've been keeping myself busy with a few small odd jobs, but mainly just fixing up the paths and the stairs around the areas. Just really small things, nothing big at all. There were simple tasks, but they really reminded me of how satisfying it can be to tackle those easy projects I've been putting off. And that is exactly the vibe I'm going to be bringing in today's episode. We're kicking things off by polishing up and designing our mining and mineshaft area here. It's one of those builds I've been meaning to finish for a while, but kept putting it on the back burner. Starting here feels a great way to ease us back into the groove, without diving into something too overwhelming. And a easier build like this is really going to help me find some space to just talk about my goals for 2025, my expectations of myself and for the channel. I know we can touch on those things as we're building, and I can really have a good conversation with you guys on something less intense. So let's not waste any more time and get right back into it and turn this mining area into something special. So the first thing I worked on was obviously the exterior design of this build. I've always loved the look of those old west mineshafts you see in movies or games, with their rugged wooden supports and those weathered entrances you can kind of get. And that is the core of what inspired this build. But I didn't want to go full cowboy. Instead, I aimed for something that would capture the vibe while still blending into the surrounding area and fitting with the overall theme of our world here. If you think back to episode 1, you might remember that we actually laid out this entrance way back then. I had planned ahead, knowing I wanted a big and dramatic entrance just here below our core base area. So having that little foundation already in place made this part go much quicker than some of my previous builds. And I really appreciated my past self for thinking ahead for a moment like this. So well done to me. So for our core of the exterior, I went with a slanted oak wood design for the supports, as that wood color and texture really evokes that Old West feel that I was inspired by initially. Once I had the frame in place, I started by shaping the stone roof to give it more of a natural sloping look behind our slanted wooden entrance here. I also want to make the walls feel worn and rugged, as if they've seen use for several years, like they've been mined out with pickaxes and stuff. And of course, me, I love getting these little details in early on, because they don't take too long, but they really help the build feel grounded and authentic, which of course is always my goal in how I build in Minecraft, and that sort of vibe I'm going for. So carrying with that theme of that Old West idea, while I was browsing for some reference images, I came across a photo that made me think, why not add some running minecarts into this exterior of the build? Again, it's a very little detail, but it's going to bring that life to this area, which otherwise is quite desolate. And it's going to make it feel like that mineshaft is operational. I'm using the minecart track system here to replicate the vibe you get from all the fireplaces I like to use as chimney stacks in my builds, creating that life and that intrigue as to what's inside the build, what could be going on. Bringing that life to a build is always so important to me, and it makes it feel like a bigger part of the world, rather than obviously something that I've just built, which it is. And I'm always just looking for more and new ways to add life to my builds. So if you guys have any other suggestions, please let me know in the comments below. So I just started playing around with a short rail system just to see if the idea I had in my head would come into fruition if I did a full build out. But I was really happy with the setup initially, so I added a loop to give the illusion of the minecarts constantly moving back and forth, moving goods in and out of the mineshaft. And I'm actually really happy how this turned out, and it gave the build a whole new sense of energy, and it kind of set the tone for the rest of the project moving on and inside. So after finishing the minecart setup, I focused on smoothing out the terrain around the exterior to make it blend better with the environment while making it unique to this build. But this is actually a really good moment to talk about my goals for 2025 on this YouTube channel. My main priorities for the channel are growth, consistency, and community. I want to really keep putting out the content regularly, but I also want to make sure I'm engaging with you all more and fostering that connection that I think is going to be so important to grow this page. And on top of that, that, I am looking to branch out into other games. Minecraft will always be there. It's at the heart of this channel, and you can count on those new Minecraft videos every Friday. But I also want to show off my style and personality in other games. So it's about stepping out of my comfort zone a bit and exploring new ways to entertain and connect with you all. And I'm really excited about that. I've got one video in the pipeline just now, which is completely different to anything I've ever done before, but I've also got a few different ideas involving some other games like Helldivers, which has been a massive part of my 2024 game rotation. I really want to showcase my love and passion for that game to you guys. But back to the build. So the left of the entrance, I added a small kind of camp area to bring again more life and storytelling to the space. This serves as a kind of supply or prep area where the miners might have stopped to gear up or rest before heading into the shaft. Again, some little details just to elevate this build, making it a part of the living and breathing world we've built around here. So moving to inside the mineshaft, I continued our natural stone shapes and oak supports that we established on the exterior to keep that aesthetic consistent moving forward. For the floor, I of course used my usual texture design to add that depth and make the space feel more dynamic. And to give this interior area its unique selling point almost, I carved out these two areas next to the side of our entrance for what I'm calling almost storage rooms. One side of our storage area is of course dedicated to TNT, because what is an Old West inspired mine without a huge stash of explosives? I stacked a bunch of different TNT in here, some in minecarts, just to invoke that it's coming and going from the mineshaft. And I also created like a false lock safe for it, using the copper doors and the copper grates you can see, just to give that idea that it's tucked away safely, as of course any mine worth its salt would not keep such dangerous materials unsecured. On the opposite side, I created a space for almost like an unprocessed ores or precious metals storage area. And a quick shout out to Peter for letting me borrow his Silk Touch pickaxe, because I have no way of getting these just now. I only have a fortune pickaxe, so yeah, thank you to him. So in theory, yeah, this area would act as a storage location for those freshly mined materials, waiting to be either refined or transported. I imagine this area would be an area where the miners would drop off the raw resources before sorting or preparing them for use. But because these minerals and materials would also be seen as valuable, I wanted to also lock them behind our copper grate dooring as well. Since I loved how that exterior minecart setup turned out, I actually wanted to bring that inside as well. At the back of the mineshaft, I set up another rail system with moving carts, which added a huge sense of activity to the space. I realized afterwards that without it, the interior felt really static, but this small addition really makes it come alive inside here. I'll showcase this a bit more in the episode further on. It's kind of hard to get the sense of it in this kind of tight area, but I think you'll agree that it is definitely a great touch and something I think you guys could incorporate in your builds as well. So then, just to round out this interior and this build, I added a couple workstations to the central areas using barrels, chests, some crafting tables, those kind of utility blocks, just to fill that space while keeping everything cohesive. I made sure to imprint these sections within the walls just to make that mine shaft and cave vibe come across a bit more, because I've not captured it in its entirety here. So this area really helps bring that sort of cave idea together a bit more. And then yeah, that's like the core of the build that I did. I went around and just lit up the exterior using my favorite lanterns and chains. And an idea that came to me just a bit later on, obviously, was to contrast that precious metal lockup. I created a few stacks of some non-viable ore blocks, some iron, some copper, and some coal, just to really give that story of what we're doing here. Like these materials are processed and they're ready to go, but they're also not as viable, so we're happy to store them outside rather than inside, locked up and safe. This was such a satisfying project to kick off 2025. I know it's a smaller build from what we've done previously, but it's been on my list for a while now, and it feels great finally getting it done to start off our year here. This entrance area, I love how it's come together. I think the minecarts are insanely cool, and I love the effect they give. The sound is kind of annoying, but I just love watching them go. It just, like I keep saying, it brings it to life so well. The left here, our TNT area, I like it. It is very dangerous. I am terrified that any of those get set off. And I love the detail here on the right of those minecart tracks leading in and out of our ore storage room here, that it leads down the mine. It's such a little cool detail. These in-between areas, I love that vibe they give off. And of course, our other minecart system here. These guys are flying, but I love how quick they're going. It really gives off that sense of that hustle and bustle that's going on in our mine. It's such a cool effect, and I kind of want to use it on a different build. But let me know what you guys think of this design, and I really cannot wait to get in and share some new builds. And of course, some new games, which I've said earlier, coming into this new year. We're really going to be delving into a kind of brand new chapter of the channel here, and I really cannot wait to see you guys come along with me on the journey. That is everything from me, guys, for this build. Let's wrap it up here, and I'll see you in the next one.